Good afternoon again. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC in a moment, where we'll be rehashing as per usual. But first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links, as always, are going to be there in the description box. We got Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject. The article written by Neuroclastic interviewing over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. The one JRC threatened to sue them over, by the way. So please read the article and share it. We do have a link to their GoFundMe in there, just in case the JRC sees through with their threat, because unfortunately, we don't, unlike them, have, unlimited money. Alright, trigger warnings. And when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please utilize the headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child's 16 and younger and watching, parental supervision is advised. And as we are delving into the JRC stupid, where they project all their shortcomings onto us, you're going to see me probably get triggered a lot, yell, and curse every other word. Apologies for that in advance. Comment 2. A risk-benefit analysis demonstrates that the ESDs are safe and effective, that any minimal risk posed by the device are risks a reasonable patient would be willing to endure in light of its significant benefits. What benefits? What benefits are those? You have never reached out to any former students. I have this on the very best authority, by the way, to figure out whether the so-called positive changes that were caused by that device remained with the individuals long after they've left the JRC. We have no evidence that this statement is correct, because the JRC are piss poor at doing their homework. Okay. Number 2, in regards to the kids that are put on that device, as per usual when it comes to us, their consent was not given. Nobody asked them if they wanted to be stuck in your hellhole of a bad Disney acid trip from hell school, JRC. Because I can tell you, not a single one of us would ever, under any circumstances, consent to be put on that device. Nobody's signing up for torturous electroshock just below the lethal limit multiple times a day, unless you are insane and got a weird kink. Not kink shaming here, I'm just saying. Okay? A reasonable patient would be willing to endure. I've got your reasonable. I've got your reasonable. No, a reasonable patient who is sane with all their faculties intact. Like myself. I would never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, even in the event of you put that device on me or death, I'm going to happily smile my ass off as I walk hand in hand with the Grim Reaper, instead of being put on that device. Is that clear enough for you? Jennifer Masumba, a member of Mensa, an accomplished classical guitarist, musician, artist, and social influencer who radiates positivity in spite of how you tried to bring her down, has spoke on this. She would have never consented. Andre McCullen's mother told you to take the electrodes off his arms. She was his guardian. She had full legal rights. You did not do it. But look what happened there. No sane person would ever choose to be on that device. Even if it's between it and death. Come on, Grim Reaper. Time waits for no one. Because I'd rather do that than ever be put on that thing. Okay. I speak to this as someone with my own multiple diagnoses. Autistic spectrum disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, severe anxiety disorder, and severe clinical depression. Well, obviously you're not sane. Obviously I am. I am my own guardian at this point. This is why I have things like a living will, JRC, because people like you just simply existing out there made me paranoid. So I have a living will if I ever become capacitated so that people like you can't barge in and put me into your weird experiments because my mom will be there to stare you down. Just saying. Okay? You cannot provide any benefits. In my opinion, having studied this case 20 goddamn years, that outweighs the insane amount of risk of your device. The benefit is temporary. It's the exact same benefit that if I am doing something, engaging a behavior, and get punched in the face, it would stop that action for all of 5 seconds. It's kind of where violence getting inflicted on you out of nowhere. Generally, it will stop the behavior in that second. It does not remain with you to continue to stop the behavior after you're no longer under threat. That's why the punishment model never works. Okay? Because punishment of outward symptoms, which, let's face it, that's what these behaviors are, cannot address what triggers said behaviors in the first place. Let's read the paragraph, shall we? The FDA must prove that the risk posed by any device it seeks to ban is unreasonable in the light of its potential benefits. Or put differently, whether a reasonable person would see the use of this device as a risk worth taking. Allow me to put it for you this way, folks. Okay. The potential benefits of the so-called GED means I stop a behavior dead in its tracks for a few seconds. If after that time you were to remove that device off of me and then fly me to not just the other side of the country, but another side of the planet afterwards, kept me in that area for a week. What do you think? Do those behaviors become back? You bet that your ass they do. Because if all you treat is the symptoms, you're not dealing with the real problem. The problem just gets buried and suppressed until we no longer have the ability to suppress anymore. Okay? And considering with your own documents, that has proven that theory, where they go months and 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 months without shocks. And then out of nowhere, out of sheer exhaustion, they blow up in spectacular fashion. That's what happens when you suppress shit and you mask for extended long periods of time. I know. I've lived it. Okay? There is no long-term benefit to using the GED. JRC have JRC have not proved in any way, shape, or form at any point in time that those changes remain after the device is removed. Kind of convenient that you all never really do any follow-ups with those who are on the device who are no longer a part of your school, huh? If you don't do follow-ups, we cannot confirm your claims in regards to the safety, the effectiveness, and how great the benefits are from said device, and how those continued successes continue to get better for the poor kids who got stuck on that device. Because you never followed up, you have no evidence to back this claim. Is that clear? Do I need to bust out a megaphone? Number 2, any reasonable person would see it as a risk worth taking. Again, Tiffany, if you don't go on the device, you're gonna go to jail or you're going to get killed. When's the prison bus get here? That would be the reaction. So when's the prison bus getting here? Do you want me to change once we get there, or? I would choose prison. I would choose death over being on that device. That is not because I'm an unreasonable person. That is because I will not willfully submit myself to any form of abuse, no matter what kind of messed up pseudoscience bullshit you try to sell me. That clear enough? No reasonable person willingly submits themselves to abuse, starvation, and sleep deprivation willingly. But the parents signed consents. If I have to deal one more time with you people trying to say, but the parent consented though. Abusive parents exist though. Narcissistic parents exist so. There are literally narcissistic parents out there whose only reason in producing children is to have them almost act as an additional accessory. And if they're not specifically the designer children that they have in mind, then they immediately look forward to shipping that poor kid off. If you're neurotypical to boarding school, if you are neurodivergent. I know this JRC because I've worked in the field and I've dealt with those parents directly, sitting in my own office, no less. Okay? Not every parent has their kids' best interests at heart. We really need to get rid of that assumption. Okay? Number two, you've got so many parents that have come forward since then that when asked about a full functional behavioral assessment being done before any intervention had even been tried, the fact that they kind of gave the people asking deer in the headlights look and asking what that was, a reasonable person with appropriate information and the full details would never choose, if they are a decent, good, caring human being, to submit their kid to that level of torture because of things that they cannot control. Please stop with the gaslighting. It's old. I've got a headache. Good God. Factors to consider when making benefit-risk determinations and medical device pre-market approval and de novo classifications. This requires FDA to make a benefit-risk balance, which entails weighing any probable benefit to health from the use of the device against any probable risk or injury or illness from such use. They did. JRC. They did exactly that. You read that final rule from 2020, benefit-risk balance, that's exactly what they did. You don't get to say, no, they didn't, because by the time they had finished that analysis, they didn't agree with you. Okay? They did their job. The people who continuously fails in producing evidence that backs their claims is you, JRC. You. It's quite simple. You have no data to show us after the kids leave your school and are no longer on the device, whether those so-called better quality of life outcomes continued once they left their hellhole or not, because you all do not do any kind of form of follow-up afterwards. Any clinical study worth its weight always has some form of follow-up afterwards. Yes, including person-centered planning, the program that I've been on since I've been 18 years old. And unlike with the way you treat these poor kids, evolved with my age, which means by the time I aged out in regards to school supports and services, I transitioned over into adult services, like every single other consumer. Unlike you, who keep kids there way longer than any other residential school program I've ever heard of, and there's quite a few around here. Columbia, Jeff City, here in town, and I think there's one out in Stratford. I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of been a while. Okay? The FDA did its job. The risk balance was informed by confirmed and proven injuries your device has already caused by means of the ER documents that detail those injuries, the doctors who wrote those documents and included photos of said injuries testifying there, the survivors coming up and telling their stories while being backed by the medical ER documents and video surveillance footage. The only person who has not met the burden of proof in regards to their claims is you, JRC. The FDA went above and beyond what they should have had to do. If ever there was an open and shut case, or at least should have always been an open and shut case, It's this one. You fail time and time and time again to provide any kind of proof in regards to your claims. And you always argue that anyone that doesn't agree with you are not doing their jobs, did not do the things that they very much did not do the very things that not only they did, but in very, very long detail, painstakingly went over the entire benefit risk balance analysis with you in the final rule. You can't say, well, no they didn't, because if they did it they would agree with us, because that's not where the evidence points. And we're going to go ahead and close on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling to you. Hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a little while. Bye-bye, everyone.